Bad morning to you guys. This is September 13th, 2018. Thank you guys for joining us today. Uh, Bad Morning News is brought to you by Brave Browser. They're a pretty cool browser to check out if you're tired of the big corporations taking all your info and everything else. Give them a try. Brave Browser is our sponsor. So today's going to be a little different. Um, I was the only available host for today. I'm CJ, also known as Cryptic Cynic, at cryptic_cynic on Twitter. I was the only available host, and I wasn't able to set up the old format with, or the usual format with Hangouts on air. So I'm just gonna do it this way, pretty much live from my just from the app camera here. But I'll still be able to read the articles and everything, so hopefully it won't be too much of a downfall. But yeah, apologies if there's just, nothing in the video there this time. So I'll go ahead and jump into today's bad news. First article is from the Free Thought Project. This was just breaking yesterday, is when I first came across it. Um, this was written by John Vibes. 7 NYPD cops arrested, dozens more investigated for running massive prostitution ring. At least 7 NYPD cops have been arrested and dozens more are wanted for questioning after they were busted running a massive prostitution ring. New York, New York. This week it was reported that 7 NYPD cops of various ranks have been arrested for being involved in a massive prostitution and gambling ring. The officers have reportedly been under investigation since 2015 when the city's Internal Affairs Department received a tip from a whistleblower in the department. 2 detectives were placed on modified duty after the arrests, but it is not clear what their relation to the case is. An additional 30 police officers are wanted for questioning in relation to this investigation. 40 other civilian suspects were also arrested in the investigation, according to an NYPD spokesman. NYPD Commissioner James O'Neill told News 4 New York that today those who swore an oath and then betrayed it have felt the consequences of that infidelity. The people of this department are rightly held to the highest standard, and should they fail to meet it, the penalty will be swift and severe. The Internal Affairs Bureau initiated this probe and in doing so has sent a clear message. There is no place in the NYPD for criminal or unethical behavior, O'Neill said on Wednesday. The Brooklyn South Narcotics Building was on lockdown as investigators searched the premises and looked through the lockers of different officers. The officers are facing charges of enterprise corruption, promoting prostitution, and official misconduct. Mike Palladino, head of the Detectives Endowment Association, said the allegations are disturbing and, if true, reflect negatively on the entire NYPD. However, like everyone else, the detectives have a presumption of innocence until proven otherwise. Obviously, voluntary prostitution is a victimless crime and should not be against the law, as it is two consenting adults engaging in a mutually beneficial agreement. There is nothing wrong with prostitution or gambling, but the problem here is that these officers put people behind bars for these crimes while doing the very same things themselves and using their position as police to gain an upper hand in the black market. The NYPD may want to pass this off as another case of a few bad apples, but these bad apples exist in every department, and as investigations like this one show, many departments are crawling with dirty cops. And Yeah, so that's just recently happening. I just heard about it last night, and those are just the few details that we have so far. Of course, just the blatant hypocrisy is the main issue that I have with this. You know, like the article said, they put people in jail for this, and then they go and do the same stuff. And of course, I'm sure many more cops engage in those types of things than ever get caught or ever get punished in any way. But I feel like every once in a while, the cops feel like they have to have some guys go down for these crimes to pretend that they're actually on top of, the rule of law or whatever. Um, yeah, I mean, it's not surprising at all. But it just goes to show the hypocrisy and corruption, and I don't understand why any rational person can look at that and excuse it away as a rare occurrence, or make excuses. But it's just unfortunately the overwhelming sense of deference to authority that people are instilled with, and that makes them, not really care if these people are being complete hypocrites by engaging in the same behavior that they claim to prosecute people for, and claim it's unlawful or whatever. So let me know if you guys have any thoughts on that article. Go ahead and uh, jump in the live chat there, and hopefully I'll be able to check it out later on. But as I said, I'm kind of doing this on the fly. I'm the only available uh, host today, but hopefully tomorrow we will at least have Looping It back, and we'll also go from there and see who else is available. But today, just going through some of these articles. The next article I'll get into is a follow up on a story mentioned a couple days ago, and it's been gaining a lot of attention in the media over the past few days. And it's regarding the Dallas cop that claimed to have mistakenly walked into another person's apartment and shot him dead. So all we heard the other day was the cop's story where she claimed that she mistakenly entered the wrong apartment, and after giving commands to the guy who actually lives in that apartment, she ended up shooting and killing him. And of course, she wasn't arrested right away, but has been arrested for manslaughter, last I heard. And of course, a lot of people in the community are really upset and are saying she should be arrested for murder at this point. Um, and more details have been coming out that definitely seem to poke holes in her story, the female cop who is at the center of this. So I'll go ahead and read this update from the Free Thought Project, written by Matt Agarist. Let me in. Witnesses dispute official story of cop who entered wrong home and killed innocent man. As more details unfold in the case of Amber Geiger, the killer cop from Texas, the more ominous the story gets. Since this off-duty cop killed Botham Jean last week, we are finding out that the official story may not be what it seems. According to police, who continue to attempt to spin this story into some tragic mistake, Geiger accidentally went into the wrong apartment, mistook Jean for an intruder, and killed him. Okay. And this is the cop's official story. Geiger entered the building and walked down the fourth floor hallway to what she thought was her apartment, according to the arrest warrant made public Monday afternoon. She inserted a unique door key with an electronic chip into the door keyhole. The door, which was slightly ajar prior to Geiger's arrival, fully opened under the force of the key insertion. Geiger drew her firearm, gave verbal commands that were ignored by Jean, according to the warrant. Geiger fired her handgun 2 times, striking Jean in the torso. Geiger entered the apartment, immediately called 911 requesting police and EMS, and provided first aid to Jean. Due to the interior darkness of the apartment, Geiger turned on the interior lights while on the phone with 911 upon being asked where she was located by emergency dispatchers. Geiger returned to the front door to observe the address and discovered she was at the wrong apartment, according to the arrest warrant. But Jean leaving his door open doesn't seem very likely, especially considering the statements from witnesses. That just seems highly implausible. Lawyer Lee Merritt said of Geiger's narrative, "It would have been uncharacteristic for Jean to leave his door ajar," Merritt added. "He's a very meticulous young man," Merritt said. "He paid attention to detail, and his security was something that was always forefront on his mind. So when he went into a room, he closed the door behind him. He locked the door. He put his keys in a specific place." She gives verbal commands and then she shoots into the dark apartment. Not knowing anything about who this individual is or anything, she shoots into a dark apartment. Benjamin Crump, another attorney for the Jean family, told ABC News. So it's going to have to be determined, is this the actions of a prudent, well-trained police officer who at this time now has assumed that she is investigating a burglary and that she then must comply with her training, her experience, her education that she got from DPD. It seems to be contradictory of a well-trained police officer. Indeed it does. At no time, according to the warrant, does Geiger say what verbal commands she gave. What's more, any verbal commands she did give were entirely irrelevant, as she was the intruder, not Jean. What's more, according to the attorneys for Jean, when Geiger was on the phone with police, she had to go outside to verify the address of the apartment, implying that she knew she was in the wrong apartment from the start. From the fact that when you look at an affidavit and I'm thinking that I'm at my house and I call 911 because someone was just shot, attorney Daryl Washington said, "Well, the very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm not going to go outside and look at my address. I'm going to give them my address right there on the phone. I'm going to say I'm on the phone, my address is this. Why did she have to go outside to verify the address? It makes no sense whatsoever." Even more ominous than having to verify the address is the fact that, according to witnesses, Geiger's story of inserting the key into Jean's door and it opening up was simply not true. According to witnesses, Geiger was banging on Jean's door, demanding he let her in. Independent witnesses have already come forward to say that they heard this officer pounding on the door and demanding to be let in. Lee Merritt, one of the attorneys representing the Jean family, told ABC News, "The contradictions begin to build from there." Jean's family also pointed out that it would have been incredibly unlikely for Geiger to mistake Jean's apartment for her own, as he had a distinct red doormat, which would have been enough for the cop to know she was at the wrong place. Naturally, however, the police union is coming to the defense of one of their own. The union is claiming that those who question the official version of events are doing so for political reasons. Don't get me wrong, she's going to have to answer in a court of law, Sergeant Mike Mata, president of the Dallas Police Association, said Tuesday, but it needs to be fair and unbiased, and right now it's not unbiased. It's beginning to turn into a political hunt. According to the union, trying to get the facts of an innocent man's death is akin to a witch hunt. Showing his dedication to the thin blue line and not to justice is the fact that Mata even went out of his way to offer praise for this killer cop. So they just have us that police union dude going on to say crap, and I'm not going to read all of that. Anyway, um, the lawyer for the family says that he's optimistic that justice will prevail and that the manslaughter charges Geiger currently faces will be changed to accurately reflect the reality of the situation. We believe that the appropriate charges would be the charges of murder, Merritt said. For now, however, this cop remains free on a $300,000 bail. So those are the updates. As far as having witnesses now come out and say that the cop was banging on the guy's door. So, there's definitely all kinds of shit going on here, and I just feel bad for the family having to go through this and um, have something so ridiculous happen, and just knowing the state of uh, the non-punishment of cops in this country right now and elsewhere. I'm not very hopeful that appropriate justice will be done. We can only hope that at least something will be done. I mean, that's kind of how pathetic it is now. It's like you have to be. I mean, you have to be happy in some cases where anything is even done to those cops who do these things, because a lot of times, like, absolutely nothing happens to them. Um, and I'm just really embittered by that, so definitely continue following that and see how that turns out. And there is actually another article out of Reason.com where they mention that the cops there have now taken out a warrant to search the dead man's apartment, and the search warrant actually includes um, authorization for them to look for narcotics. So I'll just read this update from Reason, written by Joe Sechin. Yet more questions have emerged about the death of Botham Jean, a Dallas man shot in his own home by an off-duty police officer. Um, KXAS reports the day after the shooting, a Dallas Police Department investigator obtained a warrant to search Jean's apartment. The warrant, signed by 292nd District Court Judge Brandon Birmingham, says the police intended to look for any contraband, such as narcotics, that could constitute evidence of a criminal offense. The warrant seems to suggest police had reason to believe some sort of illegal substance was present at Jean's residence. When asked whether such probable cause existed, a Dallas police spokesperson referred Reason to the Texas Rangers who took over the investigation soon after the shooting. A Texas Rangers spokesperson in turn referred Reason to the Dallas County District Attorney's Office. A spokesperson for the district attorney said the search warrant was fairly standard for such a high-profile case, but added that no specifics about the case will be released at this time to maintain the integrity of the case. So it remains unclear why the warrant referenced narcotics. According to Houston-based criminal defense attorney Mark Bennett, there doesn't appear to be any legitimate legal reason for police to include that language, but there could be a practical one. They want to smear the guy, he speculates. He no longer has reason to complain about the search of his place because he's dead, he adds. On the other hand, Clark Neely, the Cato Institute's vice president for criminal justice, says it's not at all uncommon to have a standard boilerplate search warrant. He adds that search warrants will often refer to what police expect to find based on the particular incident, as well as a bunch of other stuff on the off chance that they happen to find something that might be useful to them. In this case, Neely notes, it makes sense police would expect to find shell casings or blood at the scene of the shooting, and the warrant refers to those too. Why were they allowed to search Jean's residence for narcotics as well? Neely says it has to do with varying levels of oversight from judges. In this case, it seems pretty clear that this judge didn't have any problem with the absence of corroborating facts that you would expect to see in a search warrant. Andrew Fleischman, a criminal defense lawyer in Atlanta, thinks it's unusual that police obtained a search warrant in the first place. It's fairly rare to see search warrants for the place where the crime occurs because the defendant normally doesn't have standing. He also says it's strange that the warrant relied so heavily on Geiger's account of how things transpired. It was written as though what she was saying was the truth, Fleischman says. Geiger's account in the search warrant seems to differ from her story in the arrest affidavit. According to the warrant, Jean confronted Geiger at the door while she was trying to get into the apartment. The arrest affidavit, though, says Geiger was able to open the door and then saw Jean across the room. According to Neely, something is off. This looks to me like a witness trying desperately to conform her story to extrinsic facts as they come to light. He says, Bennett put it bluntly, this is about as bad as a police shooting gets. And again, that update was from Reason.com, where they mention the DA getting a search warrant for the dead man's apartment, and that's certainly very suspicious, no matter if they try to claim, oh, it's a routine, we always do that. Yeah, and of course, to the average person, anyone paying attention and who knows the true nature of the police, it'll likely end up being a smear campaign. And Finian just joined me in the chat. Hey Finian, how's it going? Good to see you. Finian says, missed the first 30 minutes. The YouTube notification was very late. Yeah, I apologize for that. I have no way of, I don't know why it sends out notifications so late. Even if you try to schedule it ahead of time, the event. But, just rolling with it today. As I mentioned, if you're just joining us, I'm the only available host today. I'm Cryptic Cynic. But tomorrow we'll definitely have at least LoopNet will be back with us for the community episode tomorrow. And just as a reminder for that, if you have any news articles you'd like us to cover, if you're in the Discord, go ahead and enter the link to the article you'd like covered in the community links section of the Discord. Finian says, where's Jeremiah? Is he okay? I have not heard from him either in a couple days. I saw him on Twitter. I think he had some activity yesterday on Twitter. Beyond that, I don't know. But I'll definitely let you guys know if I hear anything more. But I would assume he's still busy getting his situation sorted, and I definitely wish him luck with that because I know that's really a pain in the ass. So hopefully he'll be able to be back with us as soon as possible. But until then, we'll just have to go with who's available. And so I'm sorry, it's just me today rambling, and I apologize also for the different setup. I had to record directly from, or I had to stream directly from the YouTube app via just my camera and my smartphone because I couldn't get Hangouts on air to stream from a mobile phone. Hi there, Danielle. Danielle says, I'm just getting a blank screen. Yeah, I apologize for that. That's just for today. So we'll be back to normal soon, hopefully, and thank you guys for hanging in there with me. Let me know what you guys think of the stories mentioned. I just covered an update to that Dallas police shooting. Of course, very tragic and very unexpected and unsurprising. Yeah, Vinian says, what other bad news do you have? Oh, well, I have plenty, so don't worry. Let's see. All right, here's an article from Anti-Media written by Caitlin Johnstone. I really enjoy her a lot. If you haven't checked her out, she's a really great, real journalist in my opinion. Really not within any confines of the left-right paradigm, or she's not beholden to any of that crap. So, this article is from Anti-Media by Caitlin Johnstone. Think Progress censored by Facebook after cheerleading Facebook censorship. In an article last month titled Facebook Announces That Fake Accounts Are Now Coming Not Just from Russia, faux-aggressive establishment apologia firm Think Progress falsely reported that I have been writing for an outlet that is alleged to be part of an Iranian propaganda campaign. I repeatedly brought this false claim to the attention of Casey Michael, the article's author, telling him that 10 seconds of research or any attempt to contact me would have shown him that the articles published by the outlet in question were just reblogs of earlier publications from my platform. But Michael ignored the many notifications he received from myself and my Twitter followers and went on merrily interacting with other posters. As of this writing, the article remains uncorrected. In the article, Michael documented Facebook's heroic efforts to shut down alleged Iranian propaganda outlets, ominously warning his readers that Russia is by no means the only foreign adversary exploiting social media's inherent openness. In other articles for Think Progress, Michael is repeatedly seen wagging his finger at Facebook and Twitter for not doing more to censor Russian propaganda, and in a July article titled Facebook Says Both Sides Share Fake News, defends InfoWars' presence on its platform. Mark Zuckerberg has an interesting way of prioritizing high-quality news. Another Think Progress author criticized Facebook for not censoring Alex Jones. Jones was censored by Facebook the following month. So I think it's understandable that those of us who have been warning of the dangers of internet censorship find it a bit funny to see that Think Progress is now complaining that it has been censored by Facebook. Think Progress reports that its traffic from Facebook has been slashed by 80% due to a fact check by the Weekly Standard, which, through a series of moronic mental contortions, found Think Progress guilty of reporting fake news about Brett Kavanaugh, of all things. In a twist of irony, which would be delicious if it weren't so disgusting, the Weekly Standard is one of Facebook's authorized fact checkers and happens to be the brainchild of none other than bloodthirsty psychopath and rehabilitated resistance hero Bill Kristol. Think Progress is part of a very large and diverse branch of progressive punditry whose ultimate job is to help centrist empire loyalists feel like leftist revolutionaries. And since 2016, one of the many appalling consequences of this bizarre environment has been the embracing of Iraq raping neoconservatives like Kristol and Max Boot by Democratic Party loyalists. In a bid to stay relevant despite having been consistently wrong about literally everything in foreign policy for the last 2 decades, these murderous ghouls have repackaged themselves as a woke, cuddly alternative to the Trumpian faction of the Republican Party and have been rewarded for their efforts with regular platforms on MSNBC and the Washington Post. So with Think Progress getting censored by Facebook, you really couldn't ask for a more clear-cut case of reaping what you sow. Nevertheless, it is wrong for anyone to be deprived of political speech, even if much of their political speech consists of attempts to silence the political speech of others. And if there's anything more gross than political speech being regulated by Silicon Valley plutocrats and a NATO PSYOP factory, it's political speech being regulated by Silicon Valley plutocrats, a NATO PSYOP factory, and Bill Kristol. Think Progress should not have its audience restricted. And again, I'll just again say that article is written by Caitlin Johnstone. I'm not trying to pass that off as my article or anything, but she's just talking about this leftist site called Think Progress that apparently was cheerleading Facebook and censoring, right-leaning people or whatever, Alex Jones people, and now um, they've gotten censored by Facebook's algorithms and whatnot. Um, the hypocrisy runs pretty deep with a lot of these people, and unfortunately, it's not surprising. Um, and I just can't really understand the lack of principle that these people have, where they can, on the one hand, cry, you know, they're upset now that they're being censored when they really should have seen that coming. I mean, I don't understand how anyone can not see that if you enable someone to censor one particular type of speech, then you're opening the door for them to censor you as well, to censor anyone. Um, so let me know what you guys think about that. Do you feel bad for Think Progress? Do you think, screw them? That's, they're reaping what they sow, or somewhere in between? I mean, I kind of feel somewhere in between. Like, of course, I don't really care for those types of hypocrites, but at the same time, it's still ridiculous what people are being comfortable with Facebook and Twitter and all of these platforms doing. It's really a love-hate relationship where, those are the biggest platforms to reach people, and that's why, this show and me personally, still use them. But, it's hard to ignore the fact that they're just being really power hungry and serving those in power by censoring alternative views of anything. So that's just something we'll just have to follow and see what ends up happening, and how things unfold with media corporations and all of that. So let me pull up another article here. Thank you guys for bearing with me again. Okay, here's an article from CBS News. Let's see. I don't see an article on here. Anyway, concerns over health effects of vaping and rising use among teens. E-cigarette use and vaping have been described as safer alternatives to smoking cigarettes, but advocacy groups and some scientists studying the growing trend say those nicotine-containing devices carry known health risks to developing teenage brains, and some kids are already using them. A new study from researchers at the Bloomberg School of Public Health at Johns Hopkins University found e-cigarettes can potentially release significant amounts of toxic metals in its vapors, which users inhale. Scientists examined 56 e-cigarette users and discovered a number of e-cigarettes released vapors with potentially unsafe levels of lead, chromium, manganese, and/or nickel. So, yeah, it's actually not the complete article I was looking for here. In any event, I think the main reason I brought this article up as bad news was the first article I read about that really mentioned that the government, the FDA in particular, is looking to, under the guise of protecting the children, is looking to enforce more regulations on these e-cigarette vaping things. which, I mean, on the one hand, I'm not, saying all, teenagers should go out and use those, but at the same time, I'm really tired of seeing the excuse of protecting the children used as a reason to take away people's individual liberties by continually restricting access to these products, whether it's cigarettes, e-cigarettes, or marijuana or whatever else. It's always a slippery slope of saying, well, kids could be using them, even though, of course, it is already the law that you have to be um, 18 or 21, depending on the state, to buy e-cigarettes the same way you have to be 18 or 21 to buy traditional cigarettes. But that's not enough for all of these um, nanny state groups and for the FDA. They always say, if there's one child somewhere using it, then I guess the only solution is to, restrict it even more, um, or to ban them completely, as is what happened with certain kinds of cigarettes back in 2010. Obama signed a law that banned what he termed flavored cigarettes and that type of thing, and single-handedly took out parts of the market that there's no reason why adults shouldn't have the ability to purchase. So always nanny state government policies. From what I've seen, a lot of times they will use the fact that kids get their hands on these things as a reason to just take them away from everyone. And just speaking from personal experience, like any type of restriction they try to implement is really not gonna solve anything, and that's really the crux of the issue, is that they can't solve these things, all of these social issues, they can't be solved through legislation, no matter how much they try to. And if parents want to try to prevent their kids from using cigarettes or e-cigarettes or anything else, it's best that they get personally involved and talk to their kids and not try to have government laws um, restrict these things from existence, because it's just not realistic at all. I mean, I was uh, 14 when I started smoking regular cigarettes, and as far as I know, the law already made that illegal. So clearly, the law didn't make any difference, nor did it stop me from starting smoking. So just that's just my view on that. Go ahead and let me know what you think. Um, I'm not a parent, so I mean, I can understand why people would be upset that their kids get hooked on nicotine and everything. Just making the point that I don't believe that it's the place of governments to coerce private businesses and strip adults of their right to purchase these products and use them. So I'll move on from there. There's some more bad news today. Okay, this is an article on Dilyana.bg, written by Dilyana Gaitandisieva. I apologize for butchering that name. But it's a really interesting article. I just kind of happened upon it. Here's the headline: U.S. diplomats involved in trafficking of human blood and pathogens for a secret military program. Pentagon scientists have been deployed in 25 countries and given diplomatic immunity to research deadly viruses, bacteria, and toxins at U.S. military offshore biolaboratories under a $2.1 billion DoD program. It's billion with a B, of course. The U.S. Embassy to Tbilisi transports frozen human blood and pathogens as diplomatic cargo for a secret U.S. military program, internal documents implicating U.S. diplomats in the transportation of and experimenting on pathogens under diplomatic cover were leaked to me by Georgian insiders. According to these documents, Pentagon scientists have been deployed to the Republic of Georgia and have been given diplomatic immunity to research deadly diseases and biting insects at the Lugar Center, the Pentagon Biolaboratory in Georgia's capital, Tbilisi. The military facility is just one of the many Pentagon biolaboratories in 25 countries across the world. They are funded by the Defense Threat Reduction Agency under a $2.1 billion military program, Cooperative Biological Engagement Program, and are located in former Soviet Union countries such as Georgia and Ukraine, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Africa. The Pentagon Biolaboratory is heavily guarded. All passers-by within a radius of 100 meters are filmed through the military biolaboratory and is located within a residential area. The security guards warn me that if I do not comply, show my passport, and leave this place, I will be arrested. My official request to the Lugar Center for access to the facility and for interviews has also been rejected. Secret experiments at night. However, I go back at night when the laboratory is seemingly still working. No matter how far the distance, the air is laden with the smell of chemicals. The smell coming from the Lugar Center at night is blown by the wind to the residential area. Local residents from the Alexievka neighborhood, where the laboratory is located, complain that dangerous chemicals are being secretly burnt at night and that hazardous waste is being emptied into the nearby river through the laboratory's pipes. Locals complain of constant headaches, nausea, high blood pressure, and dizziness when chemicals are being burned at night in the laboratory, which is just a couple of 100 meters from their homes. There is a smoke, black, red, green, at night or especially early in the morning at around 3-4 a.m. Even the hens have died. They put a big pipe underground and connected it to the drains. This smell comes from there. It smells like rotten eggs and decaying hay. The smell is so bad and is spread in different directions by the wind, says Itiri Gojitidze, who lives in a block of flats next to the laboratory. Sometimes the wind spreads a smell of rotten eggs. Once I woke up early in the morning and noticed violet smoke coming from the laboratory. At night time, they let the smoke out so that people don't see. Why at night? What are they hiding from us? He asks, and then provides another worrying fact. There are big blue plastic pipes along this street from the laboratory and from where everything goes to the river, which is 3 to 4 kilometers away. Not only do they pollute our air, but they also poison our water. Locals, poisonous gas killed 2 Filipinos. Neighbors recall a tragic incident involving 4 Filipinos who worked at the Lugar Center. 2 of the foreigners died of an alleged gas poisoning in their rented flat in Block 44 of the Alexievka settlement. The first time when they called the emergency service, we were told that they had food poisoning from fish. But the second time, when the ambulance came, there was foam coming out of their mouths. They were shouting, "Help! Help!" When they passed away, they took them away and covered it all up. It all happened here. Albert Nurbekian shows the sealed-off flat where the foreign scientists died. Another witness, Elvira Ratiani, who lived next door, witnessed the foreigners die before her eyes. They were my neighbors. We lived on the same floor, and once they were poisoned and asked us to call the emergency service. We phoned and the emergency service saved them. They said it was probably fish poisoning. The second time they knocked on the door and again asked for help. There were 4 Filipinos, 2 of them were saved, but the other 2 died, recalls Elvira Ratiani, who lives in the fatal Block 44 of the Alexievka settlement right next to the laboratory. Human blood and pathogens as diplomatic cargo to the U.S. Embassy. Leaked documents. Internal documents and correspondence between the Ministry of Health at Georgia and the U.S. Embassy to Tbilisi show what experiments have been conducted at the Lugar Center. Leaked documents reveal that the U.S. Embassy to Tbilisi transports pathogens as well as frozen human blood as diplomatic cargo. Diplomatic cargo shipments are exempt from inspection and taxes. According to instructions from the Pentagon's Defense Threat Reduction Agency, which oversees and funds the laboratories, biological material for the needs of the program must be shipped as hand-carrying items to U.S. embassies. In cases of importing to Russia, this biological material must be carried by diplomats in a diplomatic pouch and sealed as diplomatic cargo. The Pentagon, or other instructions to U.S. personnel working under the military program prohibit the use of prostitutes and any interaction with individuals who may reasonably be assumed to be working as prostitutes. Romantic, intimate, or sexual relations with local citizens or among team members are strongly discouraged, as foreign security services are known to use the enticement of such relations to exploit foreign officials. As such, a relationship with foreign nationals must be reported to DTRA as soon as possible. The document reads: U.S. scientists test viruses under diplomatic immunity. Tasked with the program at the Lugar Center are biologists from the U.S. Army Medical Research Unit, Georgia, along with private American contractors and the U.S. Center for Disease Control. Certain zones of the laboratory are classified zones and are accessible only to American citizens with security clearance. They are accorded diplomatic immunity under the 2002 U.S.-Georgia Agreement on Defense Cooperation. Joshua Bast is the Deputy Director of the U.S. Army Medical Research Unit, Georgia. The American military scientist drives a diplomatic car and enjoys diplomatic immunity without being a diplomat. He has been deployed to Georgia since 2015 by the Pentagon Walter Reed's Army Institute of Research. His military unit also operates a separate laboratory inside the Lugar Center, the Walter Reed's Army Institute of Research laboratory. However, when I confront him at the entrance of the laboratory, he flatly denies that he works at the Lugar Center. However, leaked emails between the Pentagon and the Georgian Ministry of Health proves him wrong. Joshua Bast does work at the Lugar Center. Okay. Why does a Pentagon employee lie about his workplace? I have not received any answer. Joshua Bast drives off immediately after being challenged. He is not the only U.S. non-diplomat working on the Pentagon program who has been accorded diplomatic immunity. There are 6 diplomatic cars in the car park of the laboratory, all of them with registration plates of the U.S. Embassy. These security guards patrolling the area around the laboratory in an unmarked car are paid for by the Pentagon and not by the government of Georgia, according to information obtained from the U.S. Federal Contract Registry. Hence, Georgia has no control over the activities of its foreign sponsor. Furthermore, the Pentagon scientists can work in direct violation of international law. Under a 3-year-long agreement between the Walter Reed's Army Institute and the Georgian National Center for Disease Control, the Pentagon has been given full access to the local collection of deadly bioagents in order to study them. These are agents which can cause anthrax, tularemia, brucella, and the plague. The work that U.S. diplomats perform at the Lugar Center has nothing to do with diplomacy and does not fall under the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Joshua Bass, for instance, is an entomologist and researches insects, according to a video released by the U.S. Embassy to promote the peaceful purposes of the otherwise military program of the U.S. in Georgia. Why does an entomologist work for the U.S. Army, and why is he accorded diplomatic immunity? Entomological warfare is a type of biological warfare that uses insects to transmit diseases. Georgia borders on the U.S. main rival, Russia. Moscow has repeatedly voiced its concerns about the potential development of biological weapons near the Russian borders, including the spread of diseases through insects. Such fears are not groundless, considering a recent U.S. patent for a toxic mosquito aerial release system granted by the United States Patent and Trademark Office in 2014. The invention includes a drone which can release infected mosquitoes. The inventor of the drone for the releasing of toxic mosquitoes, S. Mill Calvert, has patented 42 similar military inventions for the U.S. Army and Special Forces, including stroke-inducing bullets in just a span of 2 years, from 2013 to 2015. A person with such a name, however, does not exist in the U.S. Citizens Registry. Okay. Well, there's a lot to this article. I'll definitely, I'm going to post the links to the articles I read in the description of this video after I get off the air, and I'll post them in the Discord as well, because this is a very interesting article. I just happened upon it last night, and it seems to outline all kinds of bizarre stuff going on in the country of Georgia, which is right on the Russian border. And according to this person, just to reiterate, I'm not trying to pass this off as my work or anything. This is written by someone named Dilyana Gaitantsieva on the site dilyana.bg. Apparently, she's trying to investigate what these people are doing in Georgia, and they're passing themselves off as regular diplomats or something when they're over there conducting bizarre biowarfare experiments. So there's a lot of directions this can take, and it's very concerning to me. So let me know what you guys think, if you've heard anything about this. This is really my first time hearing about this particular case of potential experimentation going on in the nation of Georgia, and it's just worrisome and bizarre, and it's things like that really shine a spotlight on why Russia is defensive. And in the US media we're taught to believe, like, oh, Russia's this horrible boisterous little character trying to provoke us, when really, how can they be provoking us when it's the US military who goes and puts these people right on their border, who are potentially experimenting with bioweapons, mosquitoes that can be released by drone. Just very bizarre shit. I can't blame Russia for being suspicious and being concerned in circumstances like that. So I'll go ahead and read some of your guys' comments. Let's see, thanks for commenting and joining. Finian says, what a mess. I think Graham is right, wondering when we'll see a video of a masked person coming in, dealing justice, and disappearing. I think Finian's referring to the Dallas cop shooting the innocent man in his own apartment. Of course, that's something we'll have to keep following, and everything is just a mess whenever the cops are involved. Camp 002 says, this is what they ordered, they should eat it. Yeah, totally agree, Camp. Gregory Patrick says, I made it just in time to hear sexual relations. Back in my day, we used to call these Bill Clinton rules. All right. Well, it's always a nice way to put it. So thanks for joining us, and thanks for sharing your 2 cents. Just to reiterate, I was the only host available today. So apologies for just kind of seeming if I seem really disorganized and on the fly here. I've never run a podcast like this solo, so and thank you guys for being here. Go ahead and let me know. And also, just an announcement: tomorrow's Friday, and on Fridays, um, Bad Morning News is open to the community. Just meaning, if you have any articles you would like us to cover, go ahead and submit those in the Discord under community links, and we'll read them tomorrow. Like I said, Lupin It should be available tomorrow, so there'll at least be him and I. And thanks for bearing with me today. Thanks a lot, Finian. Says you did a good job. Bad day to you all. And I hope they join John McCain soon. Finian says also trail of death after the Clintons. Yeah, unfortunately, very true. And Gregory Patrick says new rule called the McCain brain problems equal retirement. Yeah, I like that. That's a good rule. So I guess I'll go ahead and wrap the show up here. Join us tomorrow, community episode. Thank you guys for being here. And Finian posted a link there. Check that out if you're in the chat. And Finian says it's like 24 hours since John McCain was put to death. All right. All right. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Bad Morning News. And screw the state, fuck the system. Have a bad morning, everybody. Enjoy your day.